Hello, hello. My name is Michael Palsak. Chances are that you know if you're listening, maybe you stumbled across this. Maybe you stumbled across this podcast. My name is Michael. I'm the host. I'm just Michael. I'm Michael. Michael Palsak is my name. I was thinking about that recently, how that's my name, because when I started out and doing stand up. Oh, this is episode 14. I know that you were eager. I've noticed that cough button. I don't have. We don't have. Mark that, editor. I noticed that a lot of people have been watching the first episode. Like, I think it's because they think I'm gonna start there, and I would not. You know, and maybe there's stuff that carries on, but I feel like they grow. You know, they get. So I kind of, but I'm gonna leave it the first one up there because I can. What am I gonna do? Just be like, there's no first. Also, if you might not have noticed, if you're watching, if you're not watching, the video, we're doing a new mic thing. Well, it's an old mic thing that we're bringing back because I did the thing where the mic was in the stand, and we got some really good feedback on that. And now I'm gonna go back to hold because I don't think it was the problem of holding it. I think it was something else, and also no one else noticed it that said anything. And I've quite an audience that would tell me, I'm sure. So yeah, this is me holding the microphone podcast. This is not episode 1, it's episode 14. If this is your first one, you did a good job. Don't worry about it. You don't have to go back to 1. You can go back to 1, but like it, fall in love with it first, and then go back and see the mistakes that led to the joy. I think it's hard to like a new show. I remember when The Office. I remember seeing the pilot of the American version of The Office and being like, I don't know. Like, isn't that crazy? Like, that's how good that you have to be. Maybe you're listening or you're watching, you're not an Office fan. Maybe that's the case. And you're like, yeah, it was all not. But I think that that it was obviously a celebrated show. A lot of people saw it as a good show. And still, me, a comedian, watching the first, it was like, I don't. And I even liked the people in it all right. I even knew some of the, not knew them, but I knew of them. Like, I don't know. I did meet Steve one time, Mr. Carell. I was on my debut of network television. He was the guest on The Tonight Show, him and Jane Lynch. And this was a long, long time ago, back in the day when Jay Leno hosted The Tonight Show. And for the record, people are always like, who was nice? I feel like if this is your first Michael Palsak podcast, just know that the majority of them aren't about my television appearances, because that would not be a long podcast. I mean, I've been on a good amount of stuff. But anyways, I was on Jay Leno. That was my debut. My debut on late night TV was on The Tonight Show with Jay Leno. And I was showcasing for The Late Show with David Letterman a couple times previous to that. And I was told not yet. And in this business, when you hear something like not yet, that's usually a sign that like it's like a no. You know, if you ever hear we're going to stick a pin in it, it's a good no. But what happens is if someone else says yes, then people are like, well, we were just waiting. We were just waiting for you. Why is every business relationship like personal relationships? So I'm drinking a nice sparkling water today because that's what I got in my fridge. Anyway, I had been showcasing for the Letterman book, who was, really right not to put me on yet. I wouldn't say that. This is stand-up. This is some stand-up talk. I'm a stand-up comedian and, currently a podcaster. Not as if it's going to stop. This is never stopping. This is going to keep going forever. This is called I Just Got My Kid to Sleep, by the way. Welcome to the intro. I'm going to get some music. I think I'm going to buy a new mic, too, that's like iPod? No, podcast. I don't know. Who knows? Um, I will keep doing this. I say that as if I shouldn't. No, it's fun. Thank you for being here. I just got my kid to sleep. He is asleep. He's in my house asleep. Can I say house if it's an apartment? I should probably say home. He's in my home. He's in my home. Oh, it's a house? No. No. But Michael, you were just saying you're on the yeah, I blew that Tonight Show money. That it's just one day on the show. But anyways, so I was going for one thing, right? Letterman was the show that I just happened to audition for because the booker was coming through Chicago, and you don't turn that down. And Mr. Eddie Brill was a very nice guy, was very nice, but we didn't get a date yet, and it was kind of like we're not yet, and I understand that. And then the Tonight Show people were looking for people, and I ended up sending them a tape. I was driving downtown to Chicago Zanies. This is the story. I'm telling the story. I'm telling the story about how I got my first. That's what I'm leading. That's the leading story of the podcast, is something that happened ages ago, all because I talked about how The Office was a great show that I loved, but in the first episode, I was like, what? Because I think you really got to like the people when it comes to a TV show. And it takes a couple episodes to see what their bits, their things are, their relatabilities, and probably a couple episodes for the writers and actors to figure it out too. Isn't that crazy? If you don't know about creating a show, like, you have to go through all these like processes of like a year maybe or more. It used to be that way, of coming up with the show and pitching the show and getting notes on the show. And then you do the show and you're like, we didn't know it yet. Isn't that crazy? We're always learning. We're learning. That's how we got here. So I was living in Chicago at the time, and I was driving down to do a set at Zanies in Old Town. I was just there doing shows recently. This is a long time before that. And they had a Monday night showcase. And those are sometimes the best crowds, because they're comedians are on the show who are like, that's kind of their debut at the club. And a lot of times they'll really get some people out to go see the show who are super excited to see their friends. And I was just kind of dropping in because I just was like, I was off that night and I wanted to do a set, which is a cool place as a comedian. Like, people talk about being a comedian, and when you start out or whatever, people are like, it takes 20 years, it takes 5, which it's not. It doesn't take 20 years to get famous. You can get famous doing, whatever, especially nowadays. Doing famous stuff. Fame does help out, get you more stage time for sure, but it also, has its own limitations. But it doesn't take that long to be a good comedian. It doesn't take 20 years to be good. And what the coolest thing I found was when I'd have the clubs that I kind of started out at, that I kind of had to wait in line at, that I kind of had to prove myself at. Am I using the right preposition there? Prove myself at? I had to prove myself to the location. I proved myself at that location to the brass of the comedy club. The bookers, I had to show that I was good. And then it gets to the point where they know you're good. This place that you love. Like, when you start out as a stand-up comedian, at least my day, it was all about the comedy club. Like, there were the showcase rooms, alternative rooms, and those were all great, but that was never, at least my dream, because I didn't understand it as much. Like, stage time is stage time, but I felt like the club had like a host, a feature, and a headliner, and you just work your way up. And like, the headliner was from out of town, and sometimes the feature was from out of town, and I never got to do more time. And so like, you go to a comedy club, and people, like, comedy clubs are built to manufacture laughs in a way. Like, I don't think people realize that, how all the little detail, like, as a comedian, no matter what kind of comedy you do, there might be some comedians that are more niche, alternative. I don't know if that's a term really anymore, but more like they're just more different, and they might be like, I don't want to go do that club. But I don't think it's because the club's not set up right. I think it's because the people just aren't necessarily aligned with their sensibilities. But comedy clubs, they have the lights the right way. The good clubs, the club's been around for a long time. They have the lights the right way. They have the seats the right way. They have the sound the right way. Everything is very, like, you go to the club, that's not like the chains are very supportive of the chains, because when I get to work them, it's fun. And some of them have been around forever. I just did the Addison Improv, and that's like one of the best clubs, the way it's set up. Everything's set up very specifically. And this is a little back story on stand-up comedy, but I don't think everybody realizes that. I think they think, people who don't know, people listen to this podcast probably know, because they just know. The people, if you're listening to this, I know the numbers. You probably have seen a lot of stand-up, and you probably get this. But this is the episode that's for people who, like, who knows? Maybe, I mean, not to say that I'm very grateful for the level of recognition I have right now, but if something were to hit tomorrow, what if something hit? What if I did this podcast, it dropped, and this, I mean, you might be enjoying it. I hope you're enjoying. If you're still here, you're enjoying it. But what if something oops, isn't that crazy? Not that. That was just the lid of a bottle of water. But how's the sound doing for everybody? Huh? How's the video? Do I look tired? Do I? I just got my kid to sleep. I don't know. I shouldn't focus so much on the video when it's an audio thing. I shouldn't focus so much on the technical parts of the podcast while doing the podcast. So, anyway, 11 minutes in. You guys are doing great. What if tomorrow we all wake up? Everybody gets to wake up tomorrow. That's something about listening to this podcast. If you listen to this podcast, I guarantee waking up. I can't do that. Nobody can. We wake up and like something has happened. Like something that I've posted or lived, like something that is out there is just like, and then all of them are like, and then like we wake up, and I'm saying we because I'm sure that if you're listening this much, you're invested in my career as much as I am. And for that, I'm appreciative. What's the difference as an adult between scratching your nose and like picking your nose? Because I was on the airplane recently, and I was like, I got to scratch. But I have a son who's 5. He's asleep. That's why it's called I Just Got My Kid to Sleep. And he went through a phase. It's kind of over. Where he was just like shamelessly picking. And I wouldn't even say shamelessly, because I feel like to be shameless, you have had to have shame at some point in your life about that activity, or some act. And I don't think he really has shame, which is, as a performer, I think shame is kind of not a good thing. You got to be able to like put yourself out. You got to get out. You got to like unveil within you. You have to, I need to shave. But you gotta let it all out. And so I'm not going to put shame on it. Like, there are medical people who say that is bad for kids, for anybody to do. And I totally see their points on how you should tell a kid not to pick their nose. And I always, try to encourage not to. But at the same time, he's a kid. He's going to grow out of it. That's my excuse right now. I don't know how I'm going to be a parent when they don't grow out of stuff anymore. I think that's like when they're adults. Like if you have an adult child, which is not really your job anymore. But anyways, kids have a really, great immune system from what I've heard. So they'll be okay. But is it okay to scratch your nose in public like this? Is that? Anyway, now I'm sniffing my nose. I had a high school teacher that she ironically taught the drug Just Say No classes in high school, but she also had like a nose thing, and the rumor was that she didn't say no growing up or in her life, that she did like drug stuff. And like I always felt like growing up in high school when there was like a rumor about a teacher, that it was like that's just kids being like kind of mean to the teacher. But looking back, all the rumors I feel like could have, kids are pretty insightful. That's all I'm going to say. That's not all I'm going to say. We've only just begun. What am I saying? What if? And so if you're listening, if you're a fan, then you're on board. Thank you. I realize as a comedian, it's way more accessible. Like my material is way more accessible, my presentation, everything, to people who are interested in it. And when you put stuff on the internet and it gets to a certain exposure level, that's when you get the people that aren't interested in it. Which is a little insight that I have that you can have too. All these are yours. Not that like if there's jokes, don't go do them on stage. But I would, if you think they are, let me know and I'll do them. If I've said something that you think would be good on stage, chime in. I don't have interns. I mean Jack, but he doesn't get my sensibility yet. Jack's my son. He's 5, and I don't think he listens to. He doesn't even have a phone. Well, this is kind of his. Yeah, I'm really leaning into the like, the style, the like. Sometimes I feel like it's necessary to leave talking about something and talk about something else and fun, and then sometimes I'm like, I think I'm just doing that to do it. Anyway, what if tomorrow, or maybe the next day, or maybe before next. What if there was a morning where we woke up and for some reason, everything that I did that was like reasonably interesting was just like so many people had like seen it and watched it and liked it and shared. What if everybody in the, like, it's like so many, and then it's just like, woo, let's check out this podcast. And then this is the one that they listen to. And I just said, what if we wake up? That would be like, that. What would that be like? I'm excited, but it'd be my life. So obviously, that's probably why I'm excited. But what if this is the podcast? This is the last thing I do before I can sell tickets. I think that's what's interesting about the internet is that people can see you. One person can see you on the internet, and they can feel like you get to be the same as all the people. Because like, when you're in the business, you kind of know where people are, and I know where I am, and I'm very happy. But there's a difference between where you are and where you are when you're like, when a lot of people are buying up tickets right away. And I'm excited for wherever. It's very fun. This is all fun. I'm not just saying. I know people that might be something like people just say like, oh, I just like all, but it is really like I did a show in Colorado this weekend, and I was telling my mom I have a great relationship with my parents, which is a good sign of someone if you're trying to be in a relationship with them. I read that in a book one time, and I think it's true, because if you meet someone and they don't have a great relationship with their parents, and their parents aren't like, I guess that could be part of it though too. Like you never know really how the parents were when the child was a kid. So maybe the parents were horrible. But maybe I'm not in a good place to talk about that. Anyways, I was talking to my mom, and I did a show in Colorado in a small town where I have family, and my mom was like, "Oh, did you get to say hi or whatever afterwards?" And I was like, "I said hi to every single person as they were leaving," and it's very nice. It's very nice to be able to say hi to everybody. And like that's like one thing that you can probably do when you have like 1,000 people there, but it's harder. So yeah, this could be the show. Not this show, but like something could happen. Something could happen. It could. It could happen to you. I would be happy if it happened to you. If you're listening to this and you have a desire or a dream, first of all, whatever it is, I want that to happen to you. And know that me wanting it to happen to you can only help, and that it's probably easier. I think it's always easier for somebody else to believe in you more than, because I've experienced that too, where people are like, you're gonna do this and this and this. And it's always easier, I feel like, for other people to believe, because they don't have all the details, all the things that you've gone through. But I still don't think it hurts to have the support, and just know that if you're listening, that I am supportive of you having your dreams. I think dreams is too, like, not real, but like whatever it is that you would like to have happen, maybe that'll happen too. Maybe tomorrow you'll wake up and you'll have that thing. That'll be and you'll be like, I just hurt. Well, this probably isn't gonna go up in time for you unless you're a late night person. Like I'm on the West Coast and it's late. Like it's late. Is it this late? How late is it? I don't know. Jack, we'll get into my experience. I always worry about how I'm gonna talk for this long, and then I start doing it, and I'm like, I think I'm doing it, and I think this one's going okay. This if you like me, if you if you like me, which I mean, I guess if someone likes somebody as a what they do, like not like you don't have to like, and I don't need like. I do have a good relationship with my parents, so you know if I am like I would be by that standard a good person to like, but forget that. I feel like I'm crossing the boundaries of the podcaster audience relationship, and that's not fair for me. It's not fair for me to talk into this little window right here, into this little microphone in front of my shark doctor teeth, to all the sleepers out there, and try to establish a more emotionally intimate relationship. Maybe it's I don't know. I have no ulterior motives. I just think, yeah, that's part of my life right now. But what if you listen to this whenever you listen to it, and then, oh wow, I just remembered a different story. What if you listen to this? How tired am I? Look at those eyes. I got a decent amount of sleep last night. But it is, we'll go through my parenting a little later. But what if you wake up after listening to this? What if, just listen to me. Maybe this is the part of the audio that could be really good. What if, that's not why I'm saying it. I'm not saying this so people just need to listen, but it's just nice to say. It's nice to think about, really. What if you listen to this and then you go to sleep, and whatever is the thing that that maybe you don't have a thing, which is probably better from what I've heard. Not that it's bad to not have goals, but like to not be like, I need it, I think I should use more words sometimes because I feel like I'm jumping. But like if you need, it's kind of hard because it goes away. But if you can just like, if you have a thing that like, my thing would be like waking up and being like, oh, this is the amount of people that want to go see your shows has increased so much that that you don't have to worry anymore about that part of your life. You don't have to worry about getting an email 2 days before the show being like, hey, we want to move it to the fall because people haven't bought tickets. You don't have to, like, I would like that to go. I would like to know that I'm sharing my thing right now. This is what this relationship is. My thing is, I would like to know that when I schedule a show that it's going to happen and it's going to be a job in the sense that when I leave, I make it such a big deal about leaving my family. But like when I think at this, like, I think I want to not worry about whether it's going to be a real show that is like, that people are going to go to. The people that go are very happy. Everybody that's gone to my show is very happy. But sometimes you go to a town and they're just like, who are you? What's going on? And I get it. There's a lot to compete with, So I would like that to go away. I would like when I go somewhere for there to be like at least, 100 people who are super excited. I don't want to put a number on it. 1,000, 10,000, who knows? But the feeling of it, the feeling of like, what if I woke up and I felt like a success? I guess that sounds sad. I think no matter where you are, you can feel like, oh, this is successful or it's not successful. But just in the sense of like, that's what. But what's your maybe your thing is, I wake like what could change in your life, and you'd be like, oh, everything I've been working for, just happened like that. It just all, you listen to this? What if you listened to this podcast? What if you watched and then the next morning you woke up and it was just like that? It was just like done. Done. Or like a step of it was done. Like a boom. What if it was like boom, done. Boom, boom. I was gonna say talking about something else. I was rewatching Pinocchio a couple years ago. When I first got Disney Plus, I was like, let's watch the old ones. And if you haven't seen it in a while, there's a scene in the very beginning where the main character who's not Pinocchio, the dad, looks out the window and he says something like, wouldn't that be nice? Because he really wants a son. And if I had a son, like, wouldn't that be nice? Like, he's happy with the puppet, you know? He's happy with the puppet. But it's like, wouldn't it be nice? And he looks at the star, like, wishes. And if you don't believe, like, you don't have to. It's just a movie, but it feels good for me, to think about life like that, like just like what, and then he gets the kid. But that was a scripted movie, so that's probably why they could take that leap of being like, I wish that would happen. Wouldn't it be nice if it happened? And then it happened. Wouldn't that be crazy, though? If you watch me say, what if the thing that you wanted to happen happens when you wake up? And then it did. Wouldn't that be crazy? That would be crazy. I mean, maybe it's not. Maybe it's just so crazy that it just might be a thing. Or maybe it wouldn't. Oh, yeah. So I was talking about the magic of shows and stand-up comedy. So when I got the Tonight Show, I was driving. I didn't get it yet, but I did now. But this is never with Jimmy. Sometimes people like, oh, you're on the Tonight Show, and then they say, welcome to the stage, Tonight Show, Jimmy. I got to work with Jimmy a long time ago, Mr. Fallon. I don't know. I think it's weird. People, Jack's 5, I've said that before, and adults don't go by Mr. and Mrs. anymore. Like, his teachers go by Miss or Ms. and then their first names. I don't know. I think his teachers, when he gets a little older, will go by their last names. But when he meets other adults, I don't introduce them as. We don't really meet a lot of adults. He meets his family, I wonder what it'll be like when we run into other kids at the playground or whatever, and the kids ask my name, I just say my first name. And that was a big deal. I feel like when I was a kid, I was like 7, and I was on a t-ball team. And I didn't have to call my coach by his last name. It was Coach Rocky. And I felt like I was committing a slight crime, because the idea of calling an adult by their first name, I was just like, is my dad going to hear that? But I think whatever they want to be called, they're called, That's what you do. So I'm driving downtown to Chicago to do a set. That's what I was talking about earlier. The dream of whatever you want in comedy, it takes forever. But one of the coolest parts on the step, when you could even just stop at this step if you wanted, it's a really cool part when you get to the point at your comedy club where in your town where you don't have to do the new talent showcase anymore. You just get to do the new talent showcase because you want to go up and do some material. And that's like really awesome because that means that you're like, you've really made some progress. Like, you started at nothing. That's the great part about stand-up. No one enters the field with with a degree or a master's or and they have any advantage at all. Comedy, everyone's at 0. Like, maybe you've been famous and you can draw people, but no one. It's not. Excuse me. This is I would edit that out for sure. This is sparkling water. What that was the best part of the funniest part of the podcast. Who knows? It could have been. Let's vote. No, let's not vote at that. But that's the coolest part as a comedian. This is very what a comedian's like, heavy right now. And maybe it's going to be that way the whole way. I did get my kid to sleep. I'll get back to it. But that is a cool part as a comedian when you get to work at the club as a comedian and you can just call or whatever and be like, hey, I want to work out. And they're like, yeah, come do the show. And so I'm doing that. everyone's working on their set to get booked at the club, and I'm just like, hey, I'm in town. Can I come do a set? And they're like, yeah, come down. They're like, whenever you want. That's such a nice feel. That's like such a nice, joyful, like you're a part of a thing. Like I'm hugging the air right now. If you can't see, you're a part of a community. The people who make decisions, they care about. They don't just book you because you're good. They care. When people you work with care about you, or at least show that, I feel like they really do. Though. People want to care usually, or they don't want to care because then it's harder to fire people. But like when people care about, then it's like you can live off that forever. I feel like when people start out in the business of whatever they're doing, you sometimes, especially people like me or like that are very focused sometimes too much on the future. Like you want, like, what's that thing that I want? But the steps in between and the people and the relationships that embrace you because of what you bring to the table, but then you become a part of it. You become a part of the family. Like they literally say you're part of, that's very special. And that's something that should be celebrated and should be talked about. I feel like more than, and not that the specials and the fans and the followers are bad, but having a community that respects you, not only respects, but they care. They give you, they care. They care about you. They treat you as a person, and they care about you. And sometimes it goes away. Sometimes business can get in the way when you get bigger, because there's money involved. But when you have nothing to offer but the talent that you've developed at their club, they care. That's nice. And that's where I was in that moment. And how did I get on this? And so I was driving, and I had a manager at the time, who knew I wanted to do TV, a set on TV, and he knew I had like the jokes that I wanted to do, and he called me, and I had hands-free. It wasn't that long ago. I had hands-free. I'm like, okay, I'm not that old. It was a hands-free car. It's not like I had to roll down my window with the, by hand, but it was a hands-free. And I answered, and he was like, yeah, the Tonight Show's looking for people. Can you make a set? Can you send me a set? And I was like, yeah, I think in the past I would feel a little bit intimidated by it. Man, are you tired of this story? I'm going through with it because that's the one flaw of the podcast, is like there's no repercussions for time. Like in stand-up, you only have so much time. You got to get people to laugh. In like reels and TikToks and stuff, you're getting to it fast. And podcasts, it's just like, oh, where else can I go before I get there? That could be fun. And if it's not, who knows? I hope people are doing dishes right now. I hope you're accomplishing something right now. And if you're not, I hope you're enjoying it so much. Sometimes I can't do stuff while I'm watching something I really enjoy. And if this is that for you, I'm deeply honored. Anyway, my manager, Josh, at the time, who I still, I was very, how do I say? He was my first manager, and he was like a friend. And I think I say like a friend because I feel like I don't want to assume on his end, but if he's saying he's my friend, then I'll be, I was his friend too. That's my relationship with my best friend. I feel like I'm not his best, but he's my best friend, which that sounds like, oh, are you okay? No, I'm okay. He just has a friend that he lived with after college. They lived in the same area. Like he has a best friend. But he's like I have people in my, like I have brothers who I'm very close to, but he's my best friend. I don't believe in the mixing the friend label with relative. Like these are the people, or if you're like in a loving relationship, like you should marry your best friend 100%, but just don't tell your best friend that this is your best friend. Like you can have a best friend and the person you're marrying, and yeah, the person you're marrying, yeah, they're your best friend. We all get that. They're your best friend. You love them. Oh, no. But you don't have to like throw it in our faces. That's what I'm trying to say. Anyways, my best friend I'm not his best friend, but I'm still his friend, and I'm okay with that. You don't have to have a monogamous best friend. Do you? Do you need to have monogamy when it comes to best friends? As an adult, is that something that's needed? Or can I just be a best friend with somebody? They're my best friend. Because I don't think it's like a two-way relationship thing. I don't think it's like there's best friend activities that I'm going to be like, I can't believe he's doing that right now with it. Like, I think growing up, there can be, like, I remember in middle school on the field trip to Chicago, I had to move to a different classroom. So who I thought was my best friend was in a different classroom. And I was like, you had to get a partner to do this Chicago trip to go around all the places. And he already had somebody else because he was in a different classroom. And that's something that a best friend does. And I wasn't that anymore. And then he came back around when I was in high school, and I was like, well, where were you when we went to Chicago trip? You found somebody. You have other best friends. We were still friends, but he had other best friends. And, and I don't think there's a lot of best friend activities as adults. Like, whoever's there, that does sound kind of bad. But it is, especially in my life where I travel so much, like, am I in your town? Then you're not my best friend. But it's like, I'm going to hang out with you instead of my best friend. My best friend's not in town. What am I gonna do? FaceTime my best friend every day? He's not gonna FaceTime me. He's got other best friends. Probably one best friend. I know I'm not his best friend because he told me that. That's how much of a best friend he is to me. Am I in a not good relationship with my best friend? Is that not healthy? That he could tell me that I'm not his best friend? But I'm like, well, you're my best friend. Is that a one way? Am I too what's it called? I don't know, too passive, small, whatever. I don't think so. I don't think there's best friend. Like, well, when he got married, I wasn't the best man, and it wasn't like, I don't think maybe his brother was his best man. I think if I get married, my brother's going to be my best, but I have two brothers. So which one do you pick? Or maybe my son. Oh, do people not know I'm not married? That's what you get. Listen to the podcast 36 minutes in. I haven't been married my whole life. I've never been married. Some people think I was married because in a video, man, there's a lot of loose ends on this podcast. This is the Loose Ends podcast. And if I title that on the thing, it's going to sound like I tied up the loose ends, but I was just making loose ends. And I think it's because I have the flexibility with this. I can move, and I'm pretty excited about that. But I've never been married ever. I was engaged, and the person who engaged me, is that how you say it? She engaged me. I don't know. She engaged me, and but she gave me a wedding band. She asked me, which I should see things coming. Why am I not seeing things? Where? Maybe I should start the podcast 30 minutes in, because I feel like now we're warm. Who's listening to this? Everybody. I shouldn't insult. If you are listening, you're right. If you're listening, you are correct. This has been killer, and stand up is really good. Thank you. And maybe not. You're like, it's not killer. We basically, for half the thing, you talked about the thing. Correct. Good point. The person who proposed to me, who engaged me, I like that term. She engaged me. She asked me if I ever was engaged and I had to wear a ring, what would I wear? And I'm a very simple man. Simple. I probably shouldn't sing. It's late. It is. Can you see it in my eyes? I bet you can. People on social media, I've been making some Instagram reels and TikToks. If you like to check them out, you probably do. Thank you. If you already do. If you don't, also fine. You're listening to this. You don't have time for my other stuff. They're like, I think he's tired. And part of me is like, well, this is like, I'm presenting an emotional moment because it's something I identify with, but also I feel like that is a way for me to like sort of weigh in to the topic of what I'm making the video of, is my feeling on it. And people who are tired can be a little less inhibitions when it comes to emotion. But then I look in my eyes, I'm like, no, I think I am tired too. I was only engaged. She engaged me. She asked me if I wanted an engagement ring, and I was just like, I think I'd just have like a wedding band or whatever, because I'm a simple man. And but I didn't think that she was gonna propose. I didn't think, because I think that's the weird part, because we live in a time where I believe that men and women, every gender is equal to propose. Everybody can say, hey, do you want to live with me in this world forever? Everybody has that right to ask. Everybody has that right. I never know what to look. I look right here, but then I like seeing, I don't know, I'm not seeing myself, but like, I feel it's weird just looking at a green dot. Do you get me, green dot? There's a green dot. on my camera, where I'm like, this is where the actual camera is. This is where it is. Do you believe me, Green Dot? Do you listen to me, Green Dot? I feel like I'm in Wally, and you're Eva, Eva, Eva. Eve had a green. I definitely will get some tired comments on that. Um, Anybody can propose to anybody in the anybody world time. But I do think I also, at the same time as I feel like that, I also know that historically, throughout time, when it comes to the gender that is proposed the most, and that doesn't make it right or good or better, but historically, from what I've heard, I don't know the stats, that but the male person, I think, feels, probably not soon, maybe not in the next 20 years, but now, or at least maybe in the last 10 years, feels like they let me just say it like this. If you're a woman and you're proposing to a man, okay, here's this. It's great. You should. Topanga, Corey, do it. Topanga proposed, but she was Topanga. That was a Boy Meets World reference. Sometimes I feel like if I say the reference, then it's like, what's the point of making the reference? But then like people don't know the reference and they're just like, click. There's no more click. There's just like swipe. I'm glad there's no thumbs downs on YouTube for sure. Did you know there used to be thumbs downs? Of course you did. Of course. There used to be thumbs down. I remember not very long ago when Jack was we'd watch things on YouTube. You could thumbs down. C is for Cookie by Cookie Monster had like millions of thumbs downs, like more millions thumbs ups, but there were like at least 10% or whatever the people that were like, no, boo, boo, like C is for carrots. I don't like cookie. Like who doesn't like cookies? C is for cookies, you know? Boo, I'm trying to get my kid to eat carrot, which I do get. I do think it's interesting that Sesame Street, I mean, they did rebrand. Cookie Monster just doesn't eat cookies anymore. It's weird how many things are targeted at kids. Everywhere we go, Jack finds something that he can buy as a toy. And like we went to the movies today for the first time. I got to take him to the movies. Well, we saw Garfield, which is written by the screenwriter David Reynolds, who wrote Finding Nemo. And I thoroughly enjoyed the Garfield movie. Jack got a little scared. It's PG. It's PG, which I don't know if that's like a tougher rating nowadays. When I was a kid, I feel like you had to do a lot to get a PG for a kid movie. And now I feel like they're just like, whoa, which maybe they're right too. But Jack found toys at the movie. They sell toys at the movie theater now. Like at first, I was like, all right, I'm going to the movie theater knowing he's going to get like an icy. That was established. That was established weeks ago. He loves ices, and he saw a movie poster, and he's like, I want to go there. And he knows that the movie theater serves ices because one time we just got a slushy icy at the movie theater, and we didn't even buy a ticket. He was just like, I want that. I'm like, that sounds fun. We haven't done that before. And so he knew that, and he was like, and I'm like, I get to see a movie. You get, but we get there. There's like tough stuffed animal toys. There's all sorts of toys for the kid to buy. And you don't notice them as an adult because you're not, but the kids are just like, ugh. And my new thing when Jack asks for something, as I say, I want to think about that. And then he sort of gives into that a little bit if we're staying there, you know, but we were leaving the movie theater and he was like, well, we have to stay here till you're done thinking about it, which is like, what is this? Who are you right now? We have to stay here till you're done thinking about it. Like, what is this? I'm held hostage right now by a person I can pick up and move. And I kind of was. And I was like, well, then the other thing I say is when he wants something that I'm not going to get, I say, I wasn't planning on doing that. Because I don't know. I was talking to one parent one time and they're like, you can just distract the kid because they don't know all the reasons why you would say no or should say no. And explaining them is just adding more like not super like pressure to the kid. Anyway, this is all me making it up kind of. But yeah. Anyway, if a man proposes to a woman, I think it's because I've been proposed to. I think as a joke and real, at least once. I think if a man proposes to a woman, he probably knows. They probably talked about it. He's probably going to get a yes. But I think at some point in the relationship, he might feel like he really wants to do it, but he also might feel like if I don't ask, then nobody's going to ask, because historically that's something the man has done, and he knows the person he's with is one of those people that wants to be proposed to, and that's something that fits into this mold. That's, and not that it's a good mold or the right mold, but he's just like that. Whereas like if you're a woman proposing, I think it's a much more courageous move to propose, which, because it's not like he hasn't thought about it. Like it's not like he didn't he knew that it was out, which it doesn't sound good when I say it like that. I'm just saying that like everybody should propose to anybody that they want to propose to, but being a man, that's what I should talk about. My personal experience I identify as a man. When I was proposed to, and I did say yes, for the year that it happened. I was never like, as she was doing it, I was like, in my head, I was like, I thought about this and I didn't do it. That's what was going through I shouldn't put that on other people, but in my head, I was like, I've considered this and I haven't yet chosen to. So, and it's not because I don't know the words or the style, because I don't know, but it's kind of unfair if the person's out there watching. It was a great run, and this is just for entertainment purposes. What do I know what I'm talking about? Anyways, so I get a call that Tonight Show wants a set, and sometimes I would freak out about that, but for some reason I had my camera, I had my tripod. I was like, this will be fun. I get there. It's a packed room because people are excited to showcase there. Two of my friends in comedy. In comedy, you have friends that you've known for a long time, but you also have friends that you just live in different cities that you've run into a lot. And it was Mary Mack was there, a funny comedian from Minnesota, and her husband Tim Harpson. I think they were married at the time. I wonder who proposed there. I bet Mary might have. Mary's super cool, and they worked out. So, yeah. And Tim's super cool too, but they were there. And I feel like when you get somewhere in kind of a pressure situation, which making a tape for late night is, if you can find in your life, like what if you woke up tomorrow and you had a pressure situation? I think if you can find a way to have maybe you don't have to find a way, because I didn't like reach out to anybody, but if you can find a way to relate to the people around you as if they were friends, even if they're not, I think that chills everybody out. And I was lucky enough to have friends that were there. Like there were surprise friends that were there. And I set up my camera in like one of the last chairs that was available. And I went up and did my set. And it was all like, they were ready for it. I was ready for it. It was so fun. I sent it out. And there was like a lot of positive response. And this is the part where the story's like, these are just like plot points of the story, but not because they're interesting. Like I feel like when you have a book or like a fiction, you can really be like, is this interesting? Is this funny? Like you can find the best way to move. That's why I don't like true stories as movies as much, because sometimes they get a little, no one specific movie. But my attitude towards a movie about a real person, like that within the last 100 years, like before it was like adventurers and like no electricity and like everything could kill you, because it's like, not if there's wild animals, you're in the pioneer, or also there's diseases. Like, nah, what am I talking about? I always feel like it could be a little boring because you can't just make up exciting stuff or like stuff that would make sense for the story. Mark Twain, I believe, once said in one way or another that something about life doesn't make sense, but fiction has to. I misquoted that for sure, but I think the point is like when you're writing a story, you get to control what's happening for your own use. You can have Topanga propose. You can. Oh my gosh, how did that happen? Oh, so sorry. The camera. Hello. We're almost done. Why did that fall? Okay. We really gotta. It's still going. We're okay. We're okay. What was that about? I always wonder, like, who did I offend there? For everyone who's still here, my video recording device just like hit the ground, but we saved it. And I was talking about plot points in the movie. Oh, like in Pinocchio. Like I feel like that's not a good vibe. That like I was gonna talk about what if the thing came true, and the camera fell down. But Pinocchio, like they got the that wasn't real, right? But like when you do a real story, it's got to be real. So I feel like that's what I'm talking about right now. It's like the real stuff. So then the bookers called my manager and was like excited. They came to see me at Hermosa Beach in California, and they're like, they like the set. They're like, drop the last joke. And I was getting ready. I was visiting LA. I was getting ready. I stayed at a really nice hotel by accident because I got a deal. Because a friend was like a travel agent, and we were looking up at the stars and being like, oh, this is so nice. And then I went to go visit my manager before I left town, and he was like on the phone. He was like, how's July 8th? And I was like, for what? And he's like, the Tonight Show. I'm like, yeah, just say it. Like I always think it's weird in your career how like people like the representatives or whatever will get you something that clearly if they know you at all was like, this is the biggest thing that's ever happened to me, and they're like, are you available? Yeah, let me check. I'm not getting married. I didn't get that was before the proposal. Like this is, yeah, I'm free. Like, and then so it was like that was like 2 weeks away, and then the guests were Steve Carell and Jane Lynch. And the whole story was that my family told me was that Steve Carell is friends with Jane Lynch. So like when Steve Carell's segment was over promoting the first Despicable Me movie, he hung around on the stage because Jane Lynch was his friend. And then they both got to watch me do stand-up with Jay Leno. And then afterwards, I got to shake Mr. Carell's hand. And he's like, where are you from? And I really wanted to say a bunch of stuff about how, like, I started out in Chicago, just like how he used to live in Chicago, but I was born in Ohio, where he went to college in Ohio, and I was just like, Wabash, Indiana, which I knew it wasn't the right answer, but it was the right answer. He was like, oh, cool, but he didn't know. Like, that happened when I did, this is very name-dropping, when I did Letterman, too. I grew up in Indiana, and he was afterwards, he's like, where'd you go to college? I knew the answer is Ball State. That's what I should. Ball State is where I should have went to school, Dave. But I said where I went to Xavier, which is I love. This is the best. But he went to Ball State, and he loves Ball State, I think, because he went there. But anyway, I got to meet those people and do the set, and that's the story of episode 14. All to say, like I started talking about, is that the comedy world knows how to put a comedy show together, like with the environment of it. And a lot of places that just want to have a comedian aren't aware of those things. And it's kind of like, I feel like I did a show. I got asked to do a show. I mean, we're going overtime now, but I have it on the list. I didn't talk anything on the list really. I had a show that I was asked to do, and it was going to be, I thought it was I was told it was a fundraiser. And then I got there, and it was like a private performance for this investment company's like biggest investors, which is kind of the opposite of a fundraiser or an actual fundraiser, and then like just raising money for the company sense. But it was like outside at a hotel, and like there was an open bar, I'm pretty sure, and I don't blame any of the people there, because I think that's what I'm talking about with a show. Like if you if you ever want to have like a comedian at your event, like go to like a really good comedy club, the closest one here, just look around. Like there's chairs, the lighting is down, the stage is lit, the stage is up at least a little higher usually, the sound like everyone is notified of the show, everyone knows there's a show, everyone's told to shut up, but enjoy and laugh. And I got there, and the first comedian was on stage, and he was just like, everyone was talking over him. And I don't blame the people, because I don't think anybody told him there was a show. And I texted the lady that booked me, and I was like, she came over, and I was like, hey, I don't think I'm going to do this. And she's like, I hope you're joking. Like, that was like her joke, was like that I'm a comedian, that I would be joking about that. Like, do you know how money works, lady? Like, how rich do you think I am that I'm just gonna be like, yeah, I came all the way here, but I don't think, like, I would be so afraid to make that joke that she'd be like, all right, and I didn't get, but I was like, I don't think it's gonna work out. And she was like, what? And I was like, well, they're not listening to him, and that's how I work as a comedian. I don't know about everybody there, but I need people to listen. And I was like, I even offered, I was like, I'll stay until I'm supposed to go on stage, and maybe it'll change. But I've done shows like this, and they're gonna have more fun if I don't go on stage because they're not listening, and I'm not gonna be happy. And then she left, and she was like, all right, just hang out. And then she texted me. She's like, you can go. And that was the first time I ever did that. And I thought it would feel better than it did. It didn't feel great because I never want to be the guy that's like, oh, I need things to be a certain way. But it feels like a sad way to end the podcast. My kid is asleep. We went to see Garfield today. Highly recommended. If you have a kid, they're gonna want the toys at the AMC. Say I wasn't planning on doing that. See how that goes. I feel like when you have advice on how to be a parent, it's usually like, well, this will work once. This will work one time. Do it. Maybe it'll work 5 times. Thank you so much for listening. It really, I know you're out there. No. All right. This is it. Episode 14. I just got my kids to sleep. Goodbye, sleepers. Good night. Good night, sleepers. The end. Should I keep doing the end thing? The end.